This is the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And this week I have a return guest, and I'm really excited to catch up with her and see what's been going on in her world and her Etsy shop. And I think you're going to enjoy this catch-up episode.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, Sarah, and welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Ijama. Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
Oh, you're so welcome. And for anyone who hasn't yet listened to episode 95 of the podcast, that was when I first talked to Sarah. Sarah runs the Etsy shop, Cason Designs, and she makes beautiful calligraphy creations. And we talked all about that back then, but she's come a long way since then. And our last conversation, well, it aired in September of 2015, so well over a year ago. And you had opened up your shop in June, so still kind of a relatively new seller at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're way beyond that now. And one of the things that I'm happy about is that I get to talk to new sellers. And in your case, you've grown so much in the it's now over a year, the past almost 18 months now.
Mm-hmm.
And so It's nice to see your progress. And I think just to have other sellers who are new or still at the beginning and trying to find their way through, hear your story and just the kind of progress you've made in going on 2 years now will be encouraging. So thank you for coming back.
Yes, I love to just share, what I've learned and, hope that anyone can learn, anything from it.
Yes, and I'm sure people can, which is why, I think it's great that we're doing this. But let's recap.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make and sell?
So I do original calligraphy pieces and hand lettering pieces. They can range from just, regular ink and paper. I do some with some watercolors as well, but the basic gist of it is original calligraphy pieces. I do them all by hand, and I've also added in some illustrations as well in the past year, and I've also done some commissioned paintings too. But for the most part in my shop, it's calligraphy.
Wow. Now, how did you get the commissioned work?
I love to paint just for fun, and I've had some people I do drawings and illustrations as well. And so it's mostly people that I know, they know that. And so just kind of word of mouth, and they say, hey, can you do this for me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So that's been more towards the end of this year that has happened. So I've done a lot of quite a few of those commission pieces.
Okay. Now, when you get someone who's expressing interest in giving you a commissioned piece to do you have them go through your Etsy shop to take care of the payments, or do you have an e-commerce site that they can place an order through, or is it completely done offline?
I actually just do it all through Etsy right now. I was intending on setting up a website this year, but it just didn't happen. So I just run it all through my Etsy because that helps me keep track of all my orders, and It's just a whole lot easier for me to do it that way. So I run all my commissions through my Etsy site right now. Okay.
Good to know. And one of the reasons that a website didn't take off this year for you is because you made something much bigger and better than a website.
Yes. Yes, we had our baby girl.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I know that you're in good company on Etsy because a lot of sellers are moms, and a good percentage of them are new moms. And so one of the things that I did want to talk about before we go too far into the conversation is what that transition was like for you. Because bringing a new baby into the household is like giving yourself, 10 times the work that you had before the baby. Yes. And then you have this business that you're running. What was the transition like for you?
Oh, it was crazy. And I know we've talked about this, but our little girl, she actually was born 2 months early. So my husband and I were going to a regular doctor's visit, and they told me, well, you need to go to the hospital and get checked out. So we went over there, and by that night, I had had an emergency C-section,
Hmm.
and she was born at 32 weeks. So
Wow.
her entrance into the world did not go as planned, needless
Oh.
to say. So, but she was in there for about 2 months. So before she was born, I had my plan of how I wanted to transition, into everything, of course. And with the
Yeah.
Etsy shop, I was like, okay, I'll finish my job at this point, and then I'll have a little bit of time to get everything ready with Etsy. And so that pretty much all went out the window. I mean, I was in the hospital and I literally had open orders. And so
Oh.
I remember I was literally in the hospital bed. I'm like messaging people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm in the hospital. I'll get your orders out as soon as I can. But,
Oh.
everyone was really understanding. But I did put my shop on vacation, of course,
Yeah.
because it was just, I just couldn't take any more orders at that point. But so the transition, I had my shop, I think, on vacation for about a month,
Hmm.
because our girl she was in the hospital for 2 months in the NICU.
Mm.
And so while she was in the NICU, I actually had a little bit of time, to get some orders done in the evening after we would come home from the hospital. So, I had that time, and it was good just to help me keep my mind busy
Yeah.
during that time. Um, and then when she came home, that was a different story. It was just, and it still is a learning curve of how to balance the time, taking care of her, and then also finding time to keep running my Etsy shop.
Yeah.
So, but I do stay home with her, and then I also run the Etsy shop, as my full-time job too. So,
Did you experience a different type of stress when she had just been born? You were a new mom trying to
mhm,
figure out motherhood, and she was still
mhm,
in the hospital, but then you knew you had this business that is kind of, well, in the real world, business is not
mhm.
um forgiving of family
Yes,
life and
yes.
personal lives. So,
Mhm.
was there a type of stress that you felt under, or did you feel that the Etsy shop was something you could control just by putting it on, on hold while you
Mhm.
adjusted to, other important things that were going on in your life?
Yeah. I think a mix of both. I feel like in the beginning, I was just sort of in a panic because everything happened so fast that I was like, oh, I'm in the middle of all these orders, but everyone was so understanding, and,
Mhm.
they just completely understood, and I was able to get them out pretty soon. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my shop on vacation. And that I just knew that personally, with everything going on, that I needed to process with my husband, that I couldn't, you know, fulfill orders like I wanted
Mhm.
to. And then when I felt like I could, I just opened it back up. And I really didn't see any slowdown from it. Of course, I didn't have any orders during that time, but
Yeah.
the orders picked back up after I took it off of vacation. So it wasn't too much
Okay.
of a big deal to do that.
About how soon after taking your shop off vacation mode did you start to, well, do you feel that it took for your orders to get back to pre-vacation mode level?
Not not very long. I feel like I had orders within the week that I opened it back up. So
Okay.
it really didn't take too long
Okay.
at all. So yeah,
And then
which I was
between,
thankful for.
yeah, which is great because there's a
Hmm.
concern among, in the
Yes.
Etsy community that if you put your Etsy shop on vacation mode, that
Yes.
you lose all that SEO traffic. And I'll admit
Yeah.
it did happen for me because I moved,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I thought I would be able to just extend the fulfillment dates on mine, but then
Mhm.
when as things happen with moving, if you've ever had to
Yeah.
deal with movers and
Yes.
yeah, stuff happens, things get lost, the truck never comes.
Yes. Oh,
Or
no.
your stuff ends up in somebody else's house and they're calling you to
Oh my
say,
goodness.
is this who you are? Anyway, I digress.
Oh.
So eventually I turned my shop I switched to vacation mode because it was just stressful for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Not having everything on hand. And when I did take it back off vacation mode, it took, I would say for me, it took about 2 to 3 months before I started getting regular sales again. But that could be a factor of, that particular shop, because that's the the shop where I sell the vintage, crafting supplies and things, which, there's a certain customer that wants those. If you make things, if you want to make like a 1970s sweater or quilt, it takes a certain person who wants that look in the 2000s versus someone who wants a nice handwritten greeting card tomorrow. So I think that's also a factor in the whole SEO vacation mode, not vacation mode, is what are you selling? And are your customers more consistent before you go on vacation than after?
Yes. Yeah. And I actually put my shop on vacation after Christmas last year, just because, and I did the same as well this year, just because I didn't want any confusion about whether people could order in time for Christmas, because I know sometimes where no matter how much you write it down, in the shop announcements and the listing in your email, I mean, people still just, I understand it, and people just miss it sometimes. And so I just didn't want any confusion. And so, last Christmas I put it on vacation, and when I reopened it, it had been fine. And so I was like, well, I'll just put it, on vacation again as well. And it's worked out fine so far. So, but I've also, done a lot of, when I do put it on vacation, I kind of build it up to the reopening of it on social media, right before I open the shop back up from vacation. So I don't know if that, has any factor play into it, but
yeah. And I know that's what you did when you were reopening your shop the first time, because you had a shop and then you left, and then, you came back, and then you did a whole promo of the new shop on social media. And that's a strategy that seems to work really well for you. Can we talk in detail about specifically what you do on social media to generate buzz even before you have, your shop is open?
So a lot of, what I've done this year, it's been a little bit different just because with a baby as well, it can be harder to be as consistent as I was before, but I do try to post consistently, and, in the, comments or captions, I write, what's coming up, and, just find a way to, just build up hype, say like, this is what I'm working on, whether it's a picture of, like a work in progress saying like something's new coming to the store, or, like this year, I'm also going to be doing some more calligraphy classes. So,
whoa,
just, I did one.
We'll get to that.
Yes, I did one in November, and I'm going to try and do at least one a month, for this year. But, just building up, just showing new pictures of new things. And, mainly it's just being consistent on social media. And I know last time when I was reopening my shop in general, I did a giveaway. I might do another one this year as well, but mainly a lot of it was just being consistent and engaging with people on it as well, so that you show up in their news feeds. So,
okay. And what's your social media platform of preference? Do you do this on multiple, or do you just focus on one?
So mostly I post to Instagram, but then I link it to Facebook on there. So it also posts on my Facebook as well, but it's just easier to just click the share on Instagram to Facebook.
Yeah.
And so that's how I do the majority of it. But Instagram is probably my favorite because it's just so visual. So that's my social media platform of choice.
Okay. Now Pinterest is visual as well. Do you spend much time or any at all on that?
So I did do some pins earlier in the year before Zoe was born, and I've actually seen a lot of traffic from Pinterest, but I'm not sure how much is converting into sales because, I'll look at the pieces that are coming in off of Pinterest, and then that doesn't always translate into what people have bought. So it's kind of hard to see like, okay, are people coming in and getting something different or, what, but it does bring some traffic to my website. So I'll, in the new year as well, that's also in my plan to, do a few more pins on Pinterest as well.
Okay. Do you look much at your shop stats?
I do. I try not to get too hung up on it, but I do look at it just to see kind of what's going on, usually at least like once a week,
Okay.
just to kind of see what's working, what people are searching for, like this time of year, everyone's getting engaged. So, like my wedding vow calligraphy and bridesmaids cards, people are looking for that a lot. And so, and that also can help on what you post to social media, because if your audience is looking for something like that, then you can post that on social media and say like, hey, this is what I make, I make this sort of thing. And that can also help, drive traffic and create a buzz about what you're doing.
Yeah. So do you find that you react very often to what you see in your shop stats, or do you just use it more to get an idea of who's coming, how many people are coming, and from where, and then you move on to other things?
I would say mostly just to kind of look at it.
Okay.
I don't know that I would react. I don't react to it all the time. It's just kind of like just to kind of get a general idea of what's going on. And, of course, through orders, I see what sells most often. And yeah, I mean, it just gives me different ideas of what people are looking for, but
Okay.
I don't get too focused on it. So,
Okay. Now, speaking about product and what people are looking for, I know that this year you had a holiday open house. And
yes, I did.
what's that about, and how did you organize that?
So basically, I have I have a lot of on hand pieces that, because I'll make an original piece, and then a lot of times what I did, and I'm not sure why I did it, but I would make a new piece if somebody ordered that and kept the other one. So it ended up being like, oh, I have a lot of pieces. So I just kind of wanted to make some room for new pieces that I'm doing and just kind of retire those older ones. And so I was like, well, this would be a great time to do an open house. And, I did it around the Christmas season. So just it's fun to be able to see people at Christmas as well. So I did the pieces at a discounted price and just to move them faster. And yeah, it turned out really good. I had people come to the house, and I just set up a pretty simple table just with the different pieces and did that there. And then with the pieces that I still had left over, I did a photo album on Facebook and said, I have these. If you want some, let me know. So it turned out really well.
Oh, good. And that's an idea for anyone who's thinking about or struggling with moving certain inventory, or if creating something just maybe bores you now. Maybe bores isn't the word, but if you're no longer inspired by certain pieces,
yes,
that's a good idea of a way to move inventory out to make room for new products.
Yeah, and also too, I was like, well, I really wanted to try and do a craft fair because I haven't done one yet. But with that, you have fees and you have, I mean, just all different kinds of stuff you have to have. And so I was like, well, I don't really have time for that right now, but I can definitely, throw together an open house. And my husband and I love to have people over. So it was just a fun way to, open up our home and see people and also, sell some artwork. So it was a lot of fun.
That's nice. I like that because you're getting creative with your sales.
Yes.
What goes into creating a new product line for you? Like where do you get your inspiration for not just the new pieces, but actually the new products that you want to offer in your shop?
Oh, I would say there's a lot. I feel like I get so many ideas, every day or throughout the year. Sometimes it'll come from what customers request. I've had a lot of just different inspirations from that. People ask for certain things. I'm like, this would be really neat. And so that'll sometimes inspire different pieces. So, and I also have a sketchbook that I've been, keeping track of, and that'll give me ideas. And I just kind of incorporate them and, I'll sit down and think of, okay, like what can I do with this? Because if I want to, launch something, I want it to be several pieces because it just makes it more worth the effort to me for
Yeah.
me and my shop.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of do it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, over the course of 2016, Etsy rebranded the shops and
Yes.
they gave a whole new layout. What do you think about the new layout? How do you like it?
I actually like it a lot. I feel like it looks a lot brighter to me. I really enjoyed getting to make my little shop banner that was a bit bigger than the old one. So that was a lot of fun. And I mean, it's of course, like anything new, it takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
And, there was the whole thing of the shop policies.
Yeah.
And I ended up keeping my own just because I felt like it was easier, even though I know there's things where they're like, well, you'll get better SEO if you have the other ones. And I feel like they did put together a really great FAQ and policy section for people who might not have had a really good one, but I felt like mine went into details. I was like, I'm just going to keep that. But, but I enjoy the new layout. So like I said, it took some getting used to, but I do enjoy it.
Okay. Now for your shop banner, did you create that yourself using a special program, or did you use the template that Etsy offers in collaboration with Canva?
Oh, I didn't even know they had that. No, I actually made it on PicMonkey. So I didn't know they had one in collaboration. I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah. No, yours is fine. Don't change yours. Well, I shouldn't say don't change yours. I like it, but
Yes. If I ever need to change, that's
if you ever need to
good
change.
to know.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Etsy collaborated with Canva to make creating your own cover photo easy, especially if you don't have, if you struggle with design and whatnot. And so there's a template that has the exact dimensions for the cover photo. It has the exact layout. And so if you go to Canva, everything is already there. Basically, all you have to do is customize it to suit your brand and your shop. And then you can just download it and then upload it to Etsy. And it's free, unless you use some of Canva's premium elements. But you can pretty much create one without using any of their premium elements. And the difference between Canva and PicMonkey, everything is free, both of them. But with PicMonkey, if you want any of the premium features, you pay an annual fee and then you get access to everything. Whereas with Canva, you don't pay an annual fee, but each premium feature has a price tag on it, and it's like $1. I don't think anything is over $1 if you want certain things. So you pay then and there, and then it's yours. So yeah, FYI. So if you haven't yet done your shop cover photo and you don't want to do it from scratch, check out Canva. And I'll put a link to the hop link from Etsy to Canva that takes you right to the Etsy template for anyone who wants to just go and check that out.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't know that they did that. I just, like I said, I made mine on PicMonkey, which it's similar to Canva, and I like Canva as well. So
yeah, you don't need to change yours.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
PicMonkey and Canva are similar, but for me, I don't know. I think my brain just works so differently. PicMonkey is so much easier, and to me, it seems more intuitive than Canva.
Yes.
But I know Canva diehards love it.
Yeah. It's just set up differently. I feel like with Canva, I kind of had to search a little bit more for what I wanted than I did with PicMonkey. So it's all good though.
Okay, so as we record this, we're actually we're getting to the fevered pitch of the holiday selling season. But at the time you listen to this, that will all be over and done with, and you'll probably be trying to work off the effects of the holiday. But one of the things that I do want to talk about, because we know the holidays are going to come back again around in 2017 and beyond, is how you got through the 2016 holiday selling period, and what lessons from the year before you learned that you applied to what you did and how you handled your shop and your business in 2016?
Yes. So there were a couple things I did. The first big one that I learned, I did it last year as well, was I set my own shipping schedule. So, the post office puts out their dates of, when you need to ship by
Mm-hmm.
to make it to people by Christmas. So I looked at that and I set it ahead a few days of that just to give myself a little bit more space and leeway,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that all the orders were in and I could complete them on time and get them to the post office on time. And so I did that, worked out really well. And I did that again this year, and I felt like it worked really well, and then from that I would post to social media and say, okay, like, this is the timeline you need to order by this day to make sure that it, gets there by Christmas. And I repeated it quite a few times because, it's just one of those things that people can
Yes.
forget. So,
Or
and I put it
ignore.
in yes, and I put it in my shop announcements and everything as well. So
Okay.
I did that, and that really helped. And the other thing, the big thing that I learned from last year was shipping labels. So last Christmas, I did not have a printer. So I was hand addressing every single one of my orders.
No,
And I
you were
think,
not.
yes, I was. And
What?
I think last year, oh gosh, I think I had at least 50 orders between the Thanksgiving and when I
Oh.
closed the shop for Christmas. And so my poor husband, I was just so stressed out and, making all of these things and then addressing everything by hand. Oh, and then of course having to wait in line at the post office to ship them because I had to pay for it there. It
Oh,
was just a
man.
nightmare. I felt bad for the postal workers as well because I would come up with a stack of 10 things and there's a line of 10 people behind me. I'm sorry.
You were that customer.
I was that person with just a stack of stuff. So this year I had a printer and it has been amazing. And of course, all this year long, I've been using Etsy shipping labels, and it's just made things 10,000 times easier to be able to, do everything just on Etsy, print it out, take it to the post office, drop it off, and be done with it. So it's just been so much easier. And then also, they send the tracking information directly to the customer as well. So
Yeah.
that was a big one. So if you don't have anything like that, I highly recommend, doing something like that. And overall, just streamlining your shipping process, whether that means, how you're packaging, setting up. And I think you've talked about this, setting up a specific station or place where you can, package and ship. That's really helpful. And, just streamlining the process to make it less stressful, because I feel like, packaging can just take so long.
Yeah.
It almost, takes me just as long to package and get everything ready as it does to make the actual thing, if not longer. So it's just anything you can do to make that process easier, do it. So, and that's something too that, as we head into this new year, you can kind of play around with it and see what works best for your shop and, put those systems in place and have them ready for when the holidays come or whenever the busy season is for people, because I know some shops have a different busy time. So
yeah, that's true.
Having that ready is a lifesaver.
I so agree with you. And thank you for mentioning how you changed your shipping process. I think shipping can sometimes be more stressful than actually creating and producing. Because one, we're all creative people. So the creation part is the easy part. You get inspired and you make something and, it feeds your soul. And then the whole shipping is what crushes your soul. And you're like, oh my goodness, why?
Yeah.
But having a dedicated shipping area with all your shipping materials, in one place, easily retrievable for when you need to send something out, is a time saver. And it's a stress reduction strategy. I firmly believe that. And it helps so much. Having a printer helps. And then also having a scale, just so you're not surprised by the shipping costs. And so things don't come back to you and not get all the way to your customer. because that can happen as well. Sometimes if the post office determines you haven't paid enough in shipping, they'll send it right back to you. And so, and that's in good, best case scenario, as opposed to it just not getting there.
Yes.
And do you use a scale and do you use calculated shipping versus flat rate shipping?
So I do have a scale, and it's a lifesaver as well. Just because sometimes it can just vary for me with what I sell. Because some people can just order multiples, or it's just there's so much variance that it's just easier for me to have a scale. And then I also do a set shipping rate. So because I know, about what something will cost, and so I do a set shipping by size of what I sell.
Okay.
So like a lot of my pieces are 5x7, 8x10, and 11x14. So I have different prices for those, based on what they ship for.
Okay. And having a scale too, I like you said, it is also a lifesaver, and there's some good scales and there's some not so great ones. It's worth investing in a good one because it will save you time and money in the long run. It might cost you a bit more, but they're not more than $35, I believe.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's great on Etsy too, just because you do have you have that commercial price as well. So I know that every penny helps, honestly. So
yeah, it really does. And what Sarah is referring to as the commercial price is you pay less if you buy postage through Etsy or online. If you go like directly to USPS.com or buy it through PayPal shipping, you pay less than if you were to walk into the post office. And over time and over the course of multiple sales, you save money on shipping.
Yes, especially when the prices on postage go up. So
yes, which which is just never ending. You can expect it. Just about every year now they go up, at least in the US.
Yes. Yep.
So Sarah, let's talk about how you manage your time. One thing that I know is there's a good percentage of listeners who are moms, and in particular new moms who are also trying to grow a business. You were in that position. What are some of the strategies that you think you were able to apply that helped you, one, cope with being a new mom and growing a business, and then just helped you stay organized and keep you in the game? Because I think with motherhood, that's a very easy time to drop out of running your own business because it's a full-time commitment. You're a full-time mom. What do you think kept you in it?
I feel like there's so much I could say on it, and there's so many different little pieces to it. And but honestly, what's kept me in is I really love what I do, and I want to be able to contribute to my family in a meaningful way. And I just love being able to share my art with others. So that's been a really big driving factor, is, just remembering why I do what I do. And so that makes it a little bit easier to, in the midst of the chaos and the ever-changing schedule that is, with motherhood and having small children and babies, that just keeps me going. But I would say, it's hard too, because it looks productivity and my schedule has had to be really flexible, and it can look different in different seasons, whether, Zoe is when we first brought her home from the NICU, and just, having to feed her more often and be up with her more often. And now that she's a little bit older, I have a little bit more time when she's in bed. So right now, kind of what my schedule can definitely vary day to day. Sometimes I'll try and wake up before her or before my husband and get a few things done. But for the most part, I would say a lot of my work happens after she goes to bed. So I'll put her to bed, and I have a little bit of time between when she goes to bed and when my husband comes home from work. So I'll get, as much done as I can But I also, during the day, I do things that I don't necessarily need to be anchored at my desk for, whether that's answering conversations or, updating or renewing different things. But I'll also, if she's in a happy mood, I'll put her in a chair next to me and, just work for a little bit as well. So I'm really looking forward to when she gets older and I can share with her what I do and,
Yeah.
find different ways to let her be a part of it as well. So, it's all combined for me. And like I said, it kind of the way my schedule goes and how I fit everything in can vary day to day and week to week. But I would say for the most part right now, a lot of it happens at nighttime. So
Okay. Yep. I think lots of moms are nighttime business mavens, I should
yes.
say.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
I think another thing too is not to be too hard on yourself because I am a big goal setter. Like I love writing out my goals. I love, saying like, okay, I want to do this, this, and this month. And I've had to kind of let go of some of that. Of course I set goals still, but being okay with it being a few less than I normally would, just because I know that I probably won't be able to get to all of them. But, still setting goals for yourself, but also giving yourself a little bit of grace in that and saying like, it's okay. You want to be able to be present with your little ones and your family as well as
Yeah.
grow your business. And I feel like you can find somewhat of a balance with that. So, yeah.
With your goal setting, do you break it down to monthly tasks? Like you have a goal for the year and then you break that down to
Mhm.
monthly tasks and then daily tasks, or weekly tasks and then daily tasks? Or do you just keep the big picture in front of you and then work towards that, as you can?
Mhm. I break it down and that's what's most helpful for me. So I have a planner. I'm still a paper and pen gal and
Mhm.
I love to write down my goals and I'm a big fan of to-do lists because I can check them off and it feels great. So I have, my husband and I actually we go through our goals at the beginning of the year and say like, okay, big picture, what do we want to do in different areas of our life? And I do that with my business as well. And so I look at those and say, okay, what do I need to do, month to month, like you said, and week to week, day to day to make this happen? Because I feel like if I don't, it's easy to just forget about it. And it's easy to get overwhelmed because it can seem like a really big task,
Mhm.
and breaking it down really makes it manageable. And especially as a mom, realistic too, because if it's a big thing, it might need to be broken down into smaller steps, and that can help, fight off overwhelm or burnout
Yeah.
with that. So I break it down. Mostly I'll break it down month to month and then kind of do an overview of my week and say like, okay, depending on our schedule, I can do this day,
Mhm.
make it a goal to do this day and this that day. So yeah.
Okay. Now, you said you use a planner.
Hmm.
Now,
I
there's
do.
Etsy is filled with planners galore. Do
Yes.
you use
Yes.
do you use any of those that are available on Etsy, or just like a regular old one that you can get like at local store?
So I haven't used any of the ones on Etsy yet. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I don't know which one to choose. There's so
I
many.
know.
I get overwhelmed by that because I'm like, well, I wanted to have this and this, and I don't
Yeah.
know. This year I used a oh, what's her name? It's right here in front of me.
Erin
Erin.
Congdon?
Yes, that
Yeah.
one. Yes, I used her planner and I really liked it. There were some times where there were a few months in there, mostly when Zoe was born and we brought her home, that it was a little less filled out than I normally would,
Yeah.
but it's helped me. And then I haven't gotten one for 2017 yet. It was on my Christmas list, so I'm waiting to see if I got it. But I think it was by Madewell or Inkwell or Livewell. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me now, but it looked like a good planner. And, mostly I kind of make it my own when I do get it anyway.
Yeah.
So I write my little spaces in there and what I need to do. But for the most part, I like something that has a big month overview and then breaks it down, in the week by week, that I can write out my lists and
Okay.
different things in it. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. And it's interesting that you bring up Erin Congdon. I hope I'm saying her name
Yes,
correctly.
I know. I never know how to say her last name.
But and for anyone who wants to look her up, it's Erin, Erin, and then Congdon is Congdon. And I was driving one day and I was listening to a talk radio show and they were interviewing her. And I had always seen her name around, like in artsy circles, but I never really thought of her as a real person. I just thought of Erin Congdon as a brand, but not,
Yes.
a real person. And so when they said, oh, we're talking to, I can't remember how they introduced her, like, planner, planner maker extraordinaire or something like that, Erin Congdon. I'm like, wait, that's a real person. So anyway, so they were interviewing her and it was really interesting to, well, one, for me to find out she was alive and human. And then two, to find out that there are, they have these planner conventions. I don't know if you've ever heard about those, but yes, the people who use her planners have annual conventions.
Wow.
And in different cities around at least the US for sure. And it's a thing. And I was like,
wow.
And all they get together to do is talk about, well, I shouldn't say all, but for the most part is talk about the planners and how they use the planners and, all the things they do with the planners. And it was funny because she was even saying that it wasn't even something she ever fathomed would happen with her planners, that people would actually organize conferences and get together and share and, all whatnot. So when you said you use hers, I was going to ask, have you attended one of the planner conventions?
No, I have not. I just heard a lot of good things about it last year. And so when I was looking for a planner, I was like, oh, I'll just give it a try. But yeah, I know I've seen people, they can do they just do beautiful things, with their planners. I haven't quite gotten it to that level, but but it served me well this year. So I did enjoy using it.
Okay, well, good. And then they're annual, right? So you can't go back to you can't use them after a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you, just with respect to being in this new phase of life and business, was it hard for you after Zoe was born to walk away from just that guaranteed paycheck? Or was it something that even before she was born, you anticipated that you were going to do anyway?
I anticipated it, but it was definitely scary. And still it can be kind of like, oh gosh, because it's not guaranteed and it can vary month to month. But we do, my husband does work. And so I'm definitely blessed in that. And of course it's a little bit tighter than, or we're more conservative with our budget, now that I don't have, a consistent job that I would go to outside of the home. So it's definitely scary, but of course I wasn't just like, oh, it's going to be the same and, not expect it to be different. So, but it's just a different way of planning a budget. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you sometimes find that you deal with burnout, and what are your strategies for overcoming that or avoiding that?
Yeah. So there've been a few times this year when it was just like, oh my, I have to make another one of these. I just need to do something different. and that's honestly one of the ways that really helps me when I have burnout is finding something else that's creative that I can do. So this year I kind of explored embroidery a little bit, which was a lot of fun. I had, because it's not a very expensive thing, thread and needles and hoops and the linen for it is not expensive, but it was just a good way to mindlessly get into something else and to be creative just for me and for fun. And that helps me to be able to have passion to jump back into what I love with calligraphy and with art. So that was one thing I did. And I also was listening to another podcast and I heard about this thing called the 100 Day Project. And it was, basically doing something for 100 days, and I love to draw. And so I was like, well, I want to draw in a sketchbook for 100 days. So I, unfortunately, I got into about 80, and then Christmas came, and
Ah.
my father-in-law actually was in the hospital, so
Oh.
everything kind of got put on hold. But I plan on jumping back in January and finishing the 100, and then also continuing throughout the year, because it brought so much, I mean, just creative juice to
Mm.
my work, and it's given me so many ideas for the new year. And it's just something, it's just really neat to look back on as well, because it not only helps you hone in on your skills, but it breeds more creativity. So
Yeah.
and it's just something where it's just for fun, and so you don't have to have it look a certain way, and it just lent itself to more creativity. So that has really helped me with burnout as well, and something that I plan on continuing in the new year.
Okay. And you said this was called the 100-day project.
Yes. Yep.
Where can we go to find out more about that and maybe join? Is it are the 100 days over, or can you just start your 100 whenever?
You can just start your own. I don't know if there's like a group that does it, but I heard it on a podcast. I'm trying to remember which podcast it was. I'll have to look and see if I can find it and tell you. But
Okay.
I was like, well, I want to do this. And it was something where I was like, I can't think about it too much and plan ahead, because then
Yeah.
I won't actually do it. I was like, okay, I have a sketchbook. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it can be
I
100
started.
days of anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And I think, oh no, you're fine. And I think the people that were talking the podcast, like I can't remember if it was the interviewer or the interviewee, but they did like 100 days of writing. She wrote like
Mm.
a paragraph or something, or just some encouragement, and just something
Yeah.
like that. And then I think the other person, she did a painting a day for 100 days. So
Okay.
it can really be anything that
Okay.
sparks your creativity, something that you do now, or something that you just like to do that's not even associated with your business.
Yeah. I like that. I like challenges like that. And I know I've had
Yeah.
other guests on the podcast who've done things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
not so much organized like with, this 100-day project where, it was talked about and other people were involved, but more so
Yeah.
challenges they gave themselves where it was like a
Yeah.
30 days of making a new painting or drawing, or 30 days
Yes.
of something. and
Yeah.
and I think that does get you into a mindset of creativity, depending on what you
It
choose,
does.
what that outlet is. So yeah,
It
but
does.
100 days seems like on steroids.
Yeah, and it really makes you think outside of the box. And because with me, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to think of something for 100 days. And there
Yeah.
were days where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to draw. But it was really freeing, because it didn't have to look a certain way, and I was just free to just do what I wanted. But the other thing that I've also been doing is I share it on social media, just to keep myself accountable
Mhm.
to, go with 100 days. And of course there were a couple of days where I was just like, it just didn't happen that day. So I would just pick it up the next day.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's important too, even if you miss a day, just, keep going, whether it's for 100 days or you just set it for 30 days. It's a
Yeah.
great way to just get yourself, you know, it can help you
Centered.
get out of a rut, and
Yeah.
yeah, and just hone in on your creativity.
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful, and I've really enjoyed it. And it's just something really neat to look back on. And like I said, it gives me all kinds of ideas as well for other projects.
Okay. And I like the idea of, like you mentioned, just jumping into it and not thinking
Yes.
too much about it. I tend to do that.
Yes.
Like I'm thinking, okay, I want to learn how to
Yeah.
do X, Y, and Z. And then I go
Yes.
and, I research it, what's the best way to
Mm-hmm.
learn it? Where's the best place to, learn it? Where
Yes.
can I find more information? And then it
Yes.
sucks all the joy
Yes.
out of it. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't even want to do this anymore.
I know. I'm the same way. That's why I was like, I just have to start doing it, because
Yeah.
if I get too crazy, I'm like, oh, I need this new thing for it, or I need to find this special journal for it. I'm just not going to do it. So
Yes.
I was like, I'm going to use what I have, and I am starting. So
Yeah.
it was really freeing.
Yeah. I did something similar with Bible verses. I was like, okay, I want to
Oh,
memorize
nice.
more Bible verses.
Yes.
And then, I was like, well, for me, it helps when I write something out and then I just carry it
Mhm.
every day with me. And so initially I was
Yeah.
like, okay, let me go and find, fancy notepads to write the notes out
Oh.
on. And then, I felt myself going down that hole of getting to the point of, I don't want to do it
Mhm.
anymore. And so I just,
Mhm.
just got like a pack of five, those 3.5 by 5 note cards,
Yep. Index cards. Yep.
index
Mhm.
card. Yep. Just keep them by the bed. And then that's all, it's nothing fancy. I put them in a
Yeah.
plastic bag, so that
Yep.
everything stays together and or whatnot.
Yes.
Because so it's not the way I imagined in my head. Because in my head, I saw
Yeah.
these pieces that could eventually become a piece of artwork when I put them all
Mhm.
together, like Bible
Yeah.
verses for 2016 that touched my life. It's
Yes.
not going to be that by any stretch of the imagination, but it got done.
Yes. Yes. That's
The other
awesome.
thing I want to talk to you, which you mentioned, to talk to you about is calligraphy classes. So are you branching
Yes.
out?
I am. I am indeed. I've had a
Okay.
lot of people ask me about it. And so I was like, well, if there's interest, I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. So I had my first class in November, I
Yeah.
believe, and just a simple thing in my house. Again, for me, I could plan a thing to death. I could sit and research it to death. I could plan it to death, but a lot of it for me is sometimes I just need to say, okay, I'm doing this and I just need to do it. And just start there and start simply if I have to, but just start. So, and the class was one of those things. I was like, I've said I'm going to do this, so I'm just going to do it. And it
Hmm.
turned out really well. And I really enjoyed it. So I decided that I really want to take that into the new year as well.
That's fantastic. So what was the structure
Yeah.
of it? Are these in-person classes that you teach
hmm
locally?
Yep. So I just taught it in my house. And
Nice.
the way I did it was I created an event on Facebook to invite people to kind of get the word out to people
Yeah.
that I knew who had been interested in it locally. So I did that way. And I also posted, of course, on social media and then just opened up my house. And I also, so how I did worked out reserving spots. I created a listing on Etsy for it. And so it's just
Wow.
like the hand lettering classes. So that's how they would pay for it. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. So I did that. And of course, I'm not shipping anything, but it's,
Yes.
what they get in person. And then so they reserve their spot by paying for it there. Just because it helps with, it can be awkward if, somebody shows up and you're like, yeah, you have to pay for this. And, it sets the precedence right up front. Like, yes, this is a class and you
Yeah.
have, because they get to take things home. And so that,
Mm.
it's just how classes are. So I set a listing up on Etsy, and if people responded yes to the event, then I would send them the link and say, this is how you officially reserve your spot, and
Mm.
set a date that they needed to reserve it by so I could get the materials for the class. And yeah,
So you purchased all the materials
I
that
did.
they used, including the pens and the
I
paper?
did.
Wow.
That's the great thing about Atlanta. We have some great art stores.
Mm.
So I when I first started calligraphy, it was difficult to find, you know, there's so many different things and ways you could go with calligraphy, and I was so overwhelmed by all the choices. And I found things that didn't work and I found things that did work. And so I kind of wanted to just simplify it for other people so that they could start doing it and, be happy with it and have
Yeah.
good quality products that I know have worked really well for me, and not have to go through that trial and error of like, oh, this is really crappy ink, or I really don't like this style of pen or anything
Yes.
like that. So
Yeah.
I put together, each of my students get, like a bottle of ink and the actual pen holder with the nibs that I use, and
Wow.
pieces of the paper that I use. And then I also made my own drill sheets, which is kind of how you warm up and, how you go through the alphabet to learn, because you hold a calligraphy pen a certain way, and
Yeah.
it's just different how you use it. So we go through that on the drill sheets, and yeah, that's kind of how I set it up.
Okay. And that's what I was going to ask was, do do they get to, is it a one and done, like just for in the class, learning the alphabets and writing it in the class, or
Mhm.
do they get to take home materials that they can continue to practice with?
Yeah, they get to take home everything. So
Oh,
that's
that's good.
included in the cost. Just because I know too, it can be like, okay, well, I have this thing and I write out a resource material, but it can be overwhelming going into an art
Yes.
store for someone who has not gone in there. And even as an artist, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I write down where they can find it and, make it as simple as possible and just different resources that I loved when I first started. But I really wanted to make it as simple as possible and just as enjoyable as possible so that people can continue it at home because I love
Yeah.
calligraphy and I love cursive and I want to keep it alive. So
Yeah.
great way to just share that passion and allow people to continue it at home so they wouldn't have to, go through the trouble of finding it somewhere else and getting discouraged and just stopping. So,
Oh,
yeah.
good. I like that.
Mhm.
So the way you've set up the class, are you positioning it to become like a to have multiple sessions so that people
Mhm.
can grow and learn different styles of calligraphy, or are you setting it up just to be an introductory class so that anyone with an interest can at least get their feet wet and then decide if they want to go further in it, or if they were just, if they're okay just with that basic class?
Yeah. So I actually have a list in my planner of different classes that I eventually want to teach. And originally I was like, oh, I could do one class a week, but then I was like, that's crazy. That's not realistic for my life right now.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
right now I'm just starting with the introductory, but I do have plans to do, like an intermediate and advanced just to go
Yeah.
through different things because it is 2 hours and learning something new does take time. And so I want to do it well. And I think that offering a different level of class, like the people that have gone through my class, the introductory class offer this and say, hey, I'm doing this other one. You can
Mhm.
bring your materials that you already have, and then we'll continue on with this and we'll learn something new.
Mm.
So there's that. And then I also wanted to teach eventually kind of brush calligraphy because that's a whole different sort of ball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And, just different things like that because when I taught my first class, I realized just how much I loved it because it made me slow down and think about my technique and what I actually do when I'm making art. Because when I'm doing it, I don't necessarily think about it, I just do it. So,
Yeah.
learning how to explain how to hold a pen, how to push, how to pull the pen to make it look like it's supposed to was really fascinating for me and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, I really want to keep doing this. It was
Yeah.
just a great creative pick me up, I guess. It
Yeah.
just, made me feel alive doing it. So I wanted to continue that in the new year.
That is so great. You're on a really good
Yeah.
path, and I'll tell you why I think so. Not that but this is just my opinion. One, I don't know if you read a lot or any of what Etsy puts out for
Mhm.
as far as educational resources for sellers.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't remember. It was some time ago, but sometime in 2016, one of the resources they put out was ways that you can expand your business
Mhm.
and grow your business and your an income from your business and your crafts. And one of them was
Yep.
teaching other people your crafts. Now I know some people might think, well, if I teach other people how to do what I do, I'm just going to, the
Yeah.
market is going to get crowded. The truth is not everybody wants to sell on Etsy.
Mhm.
And some people just
Exactly.
want to craft for
Mhm.
the joy of it. And
Yep.
so one of their suggestions was, hey, you have a skill. There are
Yep.
probably people out there who want to learn it, so teach it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
like you're doing, sell classes through your Etsy shop. People can see
Mhm.
what you make and they can see the
Mhm.
quality of what you do and decide whether or not, they think that you can teach them what you want to learn. And then I
Mhm.
also had Marie Segaris on the podcast, and her niche is um yarn and yarn arts, so crochet
Mhm.
and knitting. I think more knitting though.
Mm-hmm.
and she wrote a book in 2016, which, by the way, okay, I'm going to say this again because I know I said it during that episode and I haven't done it yet, but we're going to have a giveaway from Marie's book, which teaches you how to make money from your craft. And one of the sources of income which she uses and which she teaches in the book is teaching classes, and it has
Mm-hmm.
templates for drawing up contracts and teaching and all whatnot. Lots of it's very useful. And I said during that
Mm-hmm.
episode I was going to do the giveaway, and I haven't done it yet. So if you're
Oh.
listening to this, I want you to hold me to that. And if by the time you hear this you haven't heard anything about the giveaway, please email me and tell me I'm slacking off. So that's why I think what you're doing is really like putting you on the right track, because it just makes sense.
Yeah. And I think too, like what you said about people being afraid of, kind of you might lose business if you teach people what you do, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's the case. Like you said, I mean, just think about, individually. I know I would love to take a billion classes if I could. If I could
Yeah.
sit in on be creative and learn new creative things, I would just be one happy girl. But
Yeah.
it's just a way for people to learn new things, and if it's something that you're passionate about, it really is rewarding to get to share that with others, and that's what I experienced. And if you can teach someone something that really helps them grow in their own life, like
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really rewarding feeling. So I would definitely encourage people to not be afraid of, oh, I'm going to lose business or anything like that, but really just think about it and try it out. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep doing it. So,
Yeah.
but you might try it and you might love it. So,
Yeah. I agree.
yeah.
Now, Sarah, what are the future plans you have for Sarah Cason Designs going forward?
Ugh, man, I I feel like I have so many different ideas, but I think the focus for this year, and I don't want to get too um too ahead of myself and plan too many goals, because I know that it just life happens, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay too. But
Mm-hmm.
for this next year, of course, I'm going to continue in my calligraphy. I'll be focusing a lot on wedding stuff. I've had a lot of people have me do their wedding vows in calligraphy, and I love doing that.
Mm.
So I think that's going to be a big focus for this year. Classes, of course, are going to be a big focus. And then I've also had a lot of commission work in the last year, so I'm going to try and find a way to focus that in and really, let people know what I can do commission wise. But so I'll be doing that. And then also the big goal is to write and illustrate a children's book this year. So that's kind of separate from my
Wow.
Etsy shop, but
Yeah.
that's also in the works for this next year. So yeah.
Wow. 2017 is going to be a big year for you, huh?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if that'll all get done, but that's what's kind of on the drawing board for right now. So
Okay. Well, can we check back in with you, say around the end of the
yes.
year or early 2018?
Yes.
Okay,
You
good.
definitely can.
Good. Now, over the past year, are there any resources in particular that you found very helpful that you don't mind sharing?
Well, my probably one of my biggest resources are podcasts, honestly, because it's something that I can listen to while I work. And instead of just having the TV on, which I still do sometimes just because it's fun mindlessness, but
Yeah.
I try to listen to at least one podcast a day just to kind of get, um, you know, just learn new things, because I feel like you can learn so much from other people's perspectives. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a podcast from your specific, um, niche or genre. You can learn things from other business podcasts. It gives you so many ideas. And so podcasts are probably one of my biggest resources. Of course, this podcast I love. And, I have a whole bunch of just different favorites that I love to listen to. There's one that I recently found called, I'm totally blanking, Artist Helping Artists.
Oh.
I really enjoy that one a lot. There's a lot of just really technical things, and they just have a lot of really broad topics as well. And that's been really fun to listen to and go back to listen to their old episodes as well. And they update theirs pretty frequently. So that's a good one that I've listened to. Another one is While She Naps.
Oh, yeah.
Abby, I can't remember her
Glassenberg, I
last name.
think.
Yes,
Yes.
that one. Yes. So podcasts have really been a great resource for me, especially this past year. Just it gives me something to listen to, and while I'm working or while I'm driving.
Yeah.
I love to listen to podcasts while I drive, and that's really helped me just get new ideas for my business and to help grow my business as well.
Okay. Do you find video tutorials as helpful, or you prefer just listening because you're able to multitask?
It depends on what it is. If it's something I really want to learn, video tutorials are very helpful because I am a visual learner. But for the most part, while I'm working, I'll just listen to something. But like when I was learning embroidery, I definitely watch tutorials. Or if I want to learn a new technique for something, a video tutorial is definitely the way I go, just because it helps me learn it so much better than just listening.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have an Etsy shop shout out?
I do. It's a fellow Georgia girl that I have met and known while I'm out here, and her name is Emily Tuttle, and she owns the shop Consider the World, and she hand paints globes. And what she does, basically, a lot of people use them for like wedding guest books. She'll put them. People use them for offices, just different things. But she does beautiful work, and part of her profits goes to help refugee relief as well. So it's just a great cause that goes with what she does in her shop. And she's just a really great girl too. So yeah, that's my Etsy shop shout out.
Oh, very nice. So again, that's Consider the World, and go check out what Emily is doing and let her know that Sarah sent you. I'll have a link to Emily's shop too. So if you're driving right now, you can go to convome.com and I'll have a link to her shop right there. Thank you for sharing that. I like that she's giving back, and sometimes I think it's not. I have no scientific evidence or proof of this, and it's really just my theory. But I think that sometimes when shops have a mission or a goal, like there's when part of what they're doing contributes to a bigger picture, a bigger goal, I sometimes tend to think that for some people that helps sales, because some people want to be a part of something bigger, and if they were going to buy a globe anyway, and they want to be part of something good, she would likely get the sale as opposed to not. But that's just my theory. I don't know that for a fact.
I definitely think it helps too, because I know that can be part of my decision in the buying process as well. So if something's going to a great cause, then just like, I definitely want to support that. So I definitely agree.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, what's the best way people can reach you if they want to get in touch?
I would say Etsy Conversations is a great way, just because I check that probably most often, and it's easier for me to keep track of them there. It's not like my email inbox that can be overflowing, and I just don't even want to touch it because there's so many unread messages. Just in general, so Etsy Conversations is probably, or Etsy Convos is probably the best way to reach me. Or you can also reach out on Instagram as well, because I'm on there, usually every day. So those are the two best ways.
And tell everyone what your Instagram handle is.
So my Instagram handle is Sarah F. Cason.
And I will link to that as well. But I just wanted you to hear it. So if you already have your phone in hand, you can just jump over and see what Sarah is doing on Instagram. And as far as email, I'm going to just piggyback on that and just apologize to anyone who has emailed me and I haven't responded, because like Sarah said, sometimes it just takes a while. And And I know you
Yes.
were a victim of my
It doesn't bother me at
late
all.
email responding too. But sometimes it takes a while. I'm sorry. I will get back to you. And the reason it takes me so long sometimes is because if you email me directly because you want me to read something, I try to make sure I read all my emails, and it gets overwhelming sometimes because there's a lot, but I, eventually will get to it. So sorry, please wait. Oh, I have a funny story. And this has
Yeah.
nothing to do with anything you said other than that you said contacting you through Etsy conversations is the best way to reach you. Someone sent me a message on Facebook through the Etsy Conversations Facebook page and said, "Hey, where's my stuff?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh no. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
And I was like, what stuff?" And she goes, "The things I bought from you, they still haven't arrived." And I said,
Oh
"You
my
didn't buy
word.
anything from me." And I looked through, I looked at all my orders. Everything was, I had shipped everything. I was like, "No." And I didn't recognize the name because I would know who it was. I said, "No, you didn't buy anything from me." And she goes, "No, you said to contact you through Etsy Conversations if I hadn't received my package." And my Facebook page is Etsy Conversations.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I don't know why she was looking on Facebook for
That's so
an
funny.
Etsy seller, but anyway, that was the mystery solved. And I was like, "Oh, no." I said, "Well, this isn't Etsy Conversations. It is Etsy Conversations, but it's not the Etsy
Yes. Not
Conversations
that
you're looking
Etsy
for."
conversation. Yes.
So I
That
actually
is too
helped her
funny.
track down the seller and,
Oh.
the shop. And I said, "Here's the
Yes.
shop you're looking for. Just use the
Yes.
contact there. That's
Yeah.
Etsy Conversations that you want, not this one."
So funny.
But if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, no, I didn't say that.
Yes. Yeah.
She didn't
Little
seem
plug.
too open to listening to anything
Oh.
about Etsy. She wanted what she bought. So I was
Yes.
like,
That is too funny.
yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming back and
Yes.
spending time with me again and everyone. But before I let you go, can you talk to that person who is, a new seller and wants to grow and just needs some encouragement for 2017 to keep moving forward?
Yes. So I would say, just keep going at it. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to try something new. And I would also say just try and learn as much as you can. Etsy is always changing, whether we like it or not. And it's a learning curve for all of us. And I think a really important thing is to just keep learning and don't be afraid to change if, like I said, if something's not working. But just keep being consistent and, put yourself out there and just keep at it, because I know it can be discouraging sometimes if you don't see any orders or
Yeah.
it just seems like no one's finding you. But I know for me, in those times where I'm like, well, I feel like no one's finding me, then that's a great motivator to do something different, change up some tags for your SEO, or find, ask someone else to look at it and say, hey, what do you think I could improve on? Like, what do you see in my shop, or what don't you see? And you can ask another Etsy seller. You could ask someone that's completely outside of it, but, finding different ways to get yourself out there and to just look at your shop and to just be consistent in it. I know the first time that I had my shop, I put pictures up there. Like this was back in like 2014, and before I actually seriously started my shop, I put pictures in there. I was like, oh cool, I'm done. Not realize like it takes more than just putting it up there. It takes, being in your shop every day and making sure that you have everything in there that you need to, having all of your SEO tags filled out and making good descriptions. And that's another thing too. If you're slow, make use of that time by going in and revamping your tags and your titles and descriptions and your shop policies, just because it kind of gives it a little bit of a refresh as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's encouraging, and it's the beginning of the year. It's a good time to if your holiday sales have slowed down as well, take Sarah's advice.
Mhm.
Go in there and see what things you can change in your shop, and take an inventory of what's working and what isn't, and
Mhm.
then adjust based on that.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming back, for sharing your story. I'm excited to hear how 2017 is going to go for you because of
Uh,
all what you have planned.
yes.
I don't doubt that you're going to achieve, even
Mhm.
more than you've done in the last year. So I do look forward
Thank
to
you.
our next conversation and
Yes.
just
You.
seeing what happened.
Yes, I do too.
And if you want to follow along with what Sarah is doing, she's on Etsy. Again, her shop is Sarah Cason Designs, where she creates calligraphy to inspire your life. Original calligraphy pieces are all handmade by Sarah. And so if that's your niche and you're struggling, I'm putting Sarah on the line here, but reach out to Sarah.
Yes, no, please do. Yes.
Good. Thank you so much. Thanks again for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.